What are companies doing then to mitigate the potential impact of tariffs on the pharma industry?
Thanks for having me. And I think in the short term, what we're seeing is increasing stockpiling in the US. But obviously, that's only going to really tide companies over for a couple of months. But what they're really hoping to do is to ensure that patients aren't without the medicines that they really need. In the longer term, what we're seeing is companies looking at where exactly they're getting all their active ingredients from, the chemicals that go into their drugs, where they're sourcing the medical devices that might help produce their drugs. And they're really trying to monitor exactly where this is coming from across the world. The difficulty is that if they wanted to move this to the US, where many of them already have quite significant manufacturing capacities, that's going to take years. We could be in another administration already after that time. So there's a lot of uncertainty about whether they should be moving or whether they should be thinking of, sourcing supplies from other places. But when I speak to companies, the overwhelming sense I get really at the moment is they just don't know exactly what will be tariffed, how much it will be tariffed, which country. So it's really hard for them to make those concrete decisions, I suppose, until this evening when we find out the reality of it all.
Yeah, well, maybe we get some more details. And Ashleigh, you also have a story on companies within the drug space moving to Spain. When I think of major manufacturers, I'm not typically thinking of Spain. I'm thinking maybe of the UK, France, Ireland, of course, Denmark. What is underpinning this shift to Spain?
Yeah, what we're seeing is sort of a shift away from some of the traditional traditional countries that you typically see pharma, playing in the UK, Germany. And companies are really looking for countries that are providing something extra. So when I spoke to companies about, why they were, having more R&D in Spain, really, it's because Spain's offering something really unique. They're offering much more support, government support. AstraZeneca spoke to me about how the mayor in Barcelona is helping their employees, set up with a new accommodation or, driving license. Those might sound like quite minor things, but for companies who, have countries all over the world sort of, asking them exactly what they want to bring their investments there, those small things can actually tip the balance. And we're seeing a lot of clinical trials being done in Spain. Actually, they're sort of the leader in Europe at the moment and trailing only a couple of other international countries. And that's because the regulator's speedy, the regulator's willing to talk to companies, willing to engage with them. So the companies are really saying that they're getting something unique from Spain. There's obviously a risk that, the threat of tariffs, the threat of something, using the stick rather than the carrot might actually lead to companies not staying in Spain for that long.
Actually, it's interesting you talk about speeding up approvals. I wonder to what extent approvals are going to be delayed by the changes that's happening in the US under Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. A number of senior names being pushed out of that agency.
It is chaos we're seeing at the FDA in the US. So, as you said, a number of senior names, but more widely, it's just, it's hundreds of employees who are dealing with regulatory applications, who are dealing with, these drug approvals that companies rely on, and, have very stringent timelines on what they're expecting and when they're expecting their drugs to come to market in the US. So if those timelines are delayed, if the expertise isn't there, if the guidance isn't there from FDA officials, that's incredibly detrimental to pharmaceutical companies' bottom line.